The rescue and discovery, the Olympus station creaked and groaned like an old man settling into his favorite chair. Archer Reed paused, wrench in hand, listening to the familiar symphony of aging metal and stressed support beams. After 12 years, maintaining the Outer Rim facilities, he knew every noise, every temperamental circuit, and every leaky valve. "Just hold together another month, you old beast," he muttered, giving an affectionate pat to the access panel he'd just repaired. Archer was making his way back to the main hub through the station's maintenance tunnels when he heard it, a sound that didn't belong. A wet, rattling gasp that was distinctly organic, not mechanical. He hesitated, one hand instinctively reaching for the plasma cutter at his belt. "Hello?" he called, voice echoing in the narrow corridor. "Station security?" No response, just another pained intake of breath. Rounding the corner, Archer's boot slipped in something slick and dark. He caught himself against the wall, then froze as his headlamp illuminated the scene before him. A figure lay crumpled against the bulkhead, surrounded by a puddle of iridescent fluid that shifted colors under his light, indigo to emerald to silver. Not human blood. Not any kind of blood he recognized. The being raised its head, revealing delicate features framed by hair like liquid mercury. Its skin was pale with an opalescent sheen, and its eyes— Archer caught his breath. Its eyes were solid violet with no discernible pupils. "Don't!" the being rasped, one arm raised defensively. The movement revealed a gaping wound in its side that leaked more of the color-shifting substance. "Run!" Instead, Archer moved closer, medical kit already in hand. "I'm not going to hurt you, I'm Archer. I work here." The being watched him warily as he knelt beside it. Up close, Archer could see other non-human features, subtle ridges along its temples, elongated fingers with an extra joint. "What's your name?" he asked, assessing the wound. It looked like something had tried to tear out a chunk of the being's side. "Lyra, she whispered after a pause. Her voice had a resonant quality, like two tones layered together. "You shouldn't help me. They'll smell you on me." "Who will?" Archer asked, applying pressure to the wound. Lyra's eyes darted to the shadows. "Hunters. Purifiers." "Hold still," Archer said, ignoring her cryptic warning. "This is going to sting." He pressed a coagulant patch against the wound. Lyra hissed, a sound no human throat could make, but didn't pull away. The shimmerless fluid continued to seep around the edges of the patch. "This isn't working," Archer muttered. "I need to get you to medical." "No." Lyra grabbed his wrist with surprising strength. "No others. They'll find me." Archer hesitated. Station protocol required reporting all unregistered visitors, especially injured ones, but something in Lyra's eyes, fear, desperation, made him nod. "My quarters aren't far. Think you can walk if I help?" With Archer supporting most of her weight, they stumbled through the maintenance tunnels, avoiding the main corridors and security cameras. Twice they had to hide when patrol drones buzzed past. By the time they reached his small quarters, Lyra was barely conscious, her skin taking on a dull, ashen quality. Archer laid her on his cot and went to work properly cleaning the wound. Up close, her physiology was both familiar and alien, organs in places that made sense, but with structures he'd never seen before. "What are you?" he whispered, not expecting an answer from the unconscious figure. As he worked, Archer sliced his palm on a jagged edge of what might have been a rib. His blood dripped into Lyra's wound before he could pull back. To his amazement, her tissues seemed to respond, reaching, connecting, knitting together where his blood had touched. "What the hell?" he murmured, watching in fascination. Lyra's eyes flew open. She gasped, back arching off the cot. Her hand shot out, gripping his bloodied palm with desperate strength. "I'm sorry," she whispered. And before Archer could react, she pressed his wound to her lips. The sensation that followed was like nothing Archer had experienced. It was as though someone had connected a vacuum to his nervous system, pulling not just blood but something deeper, energy, essence, life itself. He tried to pull away, but his muscles wouldn't respond. Just when darkness began creeping into his vision, Lyra released him. Archer stumbled back, collapsing into the room's only chair. What did you do to me?" he gasped. Lyra sat up, her movements fluid and strong. The gaping wound in her side had closed to a thin silver line. Her eyes glowed brighter now, pulsing with inner light. "I took your life energy," she said, voice steadier, "and gave you something in return." Archer looked down at his palm. The cut had closed completely, leaving a silvery mark like Lyra's healing wound. "You're some kind of vampire," he said, the realization dawning with surprising calm. Lyra tilted her head. "That word? Not quite. My kind consumes energy, yes. Life force. But we're not the monsters of your legends." "Could have fooled me," Archer muttered, still feeling lightheaded. "I had no choice," Lyra said. "I was dying, and now—" She looked at him with something like regret. "Now we're bonded." "Bonded? What does that mean exactly?" Before she could answer, a tremor ran through the station. Not the usual settling groan, but something deliberate. Impact. Lyra stiffened, her eyes wide. "They're here," she whispered. "Who's here?" Archer demanded, rising from the chair. The dizziness had passed, replaced by a strange alertness. "The purifiers," Lyra said, moving to the small viewport. "My kind's executioners." Outside, a sleek black vessel had docked at the far end of the station. Figures in form-fitting armor exited, their helmets insectile and reflective. "Why are they hunting you?" Archer asked, watching as the figures moved with inhuman precision. "Because I'm a progenitor," Lyra said. "My bloodline is ancient, pure. They believe our kind should remain separate, consuming only the energy of stars and void, not living beings." She turned to him. "By sharing my essence with you, I've committed their greatest taboo." Archer touched the silver mark on his palm. "So, I'm what? Infected?" "Transformed," Lyra corrected. "Your body is changing already. You'll heal faster, sense more, live longer." She paused. "You'll hunger for energy too, eventually." Another tremor shook the station, closer this time. An alarm began to wail. "Station breach in Sector 7, announced the automated system. All personnel report to emergency stations." "We need to go," Lyra said urgently. "Do you have access to a transport?" Archer hesitated only briefly. Whatever was happening to him, whatever Lyra had done, his instincts told him the armored hunters were a far greater threat. "I've got a maintenance shuttle," he said, grabbing an emergency pack from under his bed. "Small, but it'll get us to the nearest outpost." As they moved towards the service dock, Archer felt a strange prickling sensation at the base of his skull. He halted abruptly, pulling Lyra into an alcove just as three armored figures rounded the corner ahead. "How did you know?" Lyra whispered. Archer shook his head, bewildered. "I don't know, I just felt them." Lyra's expression was grim. "It's beginning already." They waited until the purifiers passed, then continued toward the dock. Twice more Archer sensed danger before it appeared, allowing them to evade patrols. By the time they reached his shuttle, his heart was racing not from exertion but from the realization that something fundamental had changed within him. The shuttle's engines hummed to life as Archer initiated launch sequence. On the station behind them, alarms continued to blare. Through the viewport, they could see figures in black armor converging on the dock. "They'll follow us," Lyra said, strapping herself into the co-pilot seat. "Let them try," Archer replied, feeling a strange new confidence. "Where to?" Lyra looked at him, violet eyes glowing in the dim cabin. "The Obsidian Nebula. There's someone there who can help us understand what you're becoming." As the shuttle broke away from Olympus Station, Archer felt a bizarre mix of terror and exhilaration. 24 hours ago, he'd been a simple station mechanic with a predictable life. Now he was bonded to an alien energy vampire, hunted by fanatical purifiers and apparently transforming into something not entirely human. "You know," he said as they accelerated toward the void, When I helped you, I was just trying to be a decent person. I wasn't looking to have my entire existence upended. For the first time, Lyra smiled, a flash of quicksilver in the darkness of space. Destiny rarely asks permission, Archer read. The shuttle jumped to light speed, leaving Olympus, station in Archer's old life far behind. Transformation and destiny. The Obsidian Nebula lived up to its name, a vast swirling cloud of darkness punctuated by glittering pinpricks of distant stars. From the shuttle's viewport, it looked like a massive ink spill across the cosmos, beautiful and foreboding. "We're approaching the coordinates," Archer said, his fingers dancing across the control panel. In the 3 days since their escape from Olympus Station, he'd noticed changes accelerating within him. His reflexes had sharpened, his senses heightened. He could now hear the subtle fluctuations in the shuttle's engine that would have eluded him before. Most disturbing was the hunger, a persistent emptiness that food couldn't satisfy. Lyra watched, him from the co-pilot seat, her violet eyes reflecting the nebula's dark light. "You're feeling it now, aren't you? The void inside." Archer nodded, not taking his eyes off the navigation display. "How do you live with it? This craving?" "You learn to control it," she said. "To feed in ways that don't harm. Stars, cosmic, radiation, electrical systems, all can provide sustenance." She paused. "Taking from sentient beings is forbidden except in the most dire circumstances." "Like when you were dying," Archer said, touching the silver mark on his palm that hadn't faded. "Yes." Her voice softened. "I regret the necessity, but not that. It was you. Your life force has a unique resonance." Before Archer could ask what that meant, the shuttle's proximity alert chimed. A small moon orbited ahead, its surface a maze of jagged peaks and deep crevasses. Unlike the barren rocks Archer was accustomed to, this one seemed to pulse with a subtle energy that he could somehow sense. "That's where we're going?" he asked. Lyra nodded. "The dwelling of Vex, the transmuted. Once of my kind, now something else entirely." They landed on a relatively flat plateau. As the shuttle doors opened, Archer felt the moon's strange energy wash over him like a physical wave. The air, and there shouldn't have been air on a moon this size, tasted of ozone and something metallic. "This place is alive," he murmured, stepping onto the surface. "In a manner of speaking," said Lyra, "Vex has become one with it over the centuries." They traversed the alien landscape, climbing over crystalline formations that hummed when touched. Archer found himself moving with a grace and sure-footedness he'd never possessed before, leaping across gaps that would have been impossible for him days ago. "Your transformation is progressing quickly," Lyra observed as he landed beside her, after a particularly impressive jump. "Faster than it should." "Is that bad?" "It's unprecedented," she replied, concern evident in her dual-toned voice. They reached what appeared to be the entrance to a cave, though the opening pulsed with energy that formed patterns too regular to be natural. "Vex," Lyra called, her voice carrying a harmonic undertone that made Archer's new senses tingle. "We seek your wisdom." The patterns of energy intensified, converging into a vaguely humanoid shape that stepped out of the cave mouth. Vex was tall, with limbs that seemed too long and joints that bent at unusual angles. Where a face should have been, there was only a swirling vortex of energy contained within a crystalline structure. "Lyra of the progenitor line." The being's voice resonated directly in Archer's mind. "You have been absent from the collective consciousness. The purifiers claim you have fallen." "I have made choices they do not approve of," Lyra replied, straightening her posture. The crystalline head turned toward Archer, the energy within swirling faster. "And this is the result. A hybrid, a new thing." The being circled Archer, examining him from all angles. "Fascinating. His molecular structure is already reorganizing at the quantum level." "I need to understand what's happening to me," Archer said, suppressing a shiver as Vex moved closer. "Lyra says you can help." Vex made a sound like wind through crystal. "Help? Perhaps understand, certainly." One elongated hand reached toward Archer's forehead. "May I?" Archer hesitated, then nodded. The moment Vex's fingers touched his skin, his mind exploded with information. Images, sensations, knowledge flowing directly into his consciousness. He saw the history of Lyra's species. The Enari, beings of pure energy who had taken physical form eons ago to explore the material universe. He witnessed their schism, those who believed in isolation and purity versus those who sought connection and evolution. And he saw himself, his body illuminated from within as Lyra's blood rewrote his genetics, transforming him into something the universe had never seen before. When Vex withdrew his touch, Archer gasped, falling to his knees. The information swirled in his mind, gradually organizing itself into comprehensible patterns. "You see now," Vex said. Not a question, but a statement. "I'm becoming like her," Archer replied, looking up at Lyra. "But not exactly." "No," Vex agreed. "You are becoming the first of a new branch. Neither human nor Enari, but something that bridges both. A synthesis." Lyra knelt beside Archer, her expression a mix of wonder and concern. "This is why the transformation is happening so rapidly. Your human adaptability is accelerating the process. The purifiers will sense this creation," Vex warned. "They will come with greater numbers, greater determination. What you represent threatens the very foundation of their beliefs, that the Enari must remain pure and separate." As if in response to Vex's warning, a distant boom echoed across the moon's surface. Archer felt a surge of energy, hostile, focused, familiar. "They've found us," he said, rising to his feet with newfound steadiness. "How many?" Lyra asked, already, moving toward the cave entrance. Archer closed his eyes, extending his senses outward as the knowledge from Vex had shown him. 3 ships, at least a dozen purifiers." "We should flee," Lyra urged. "We're not ready to face so many." "There is another option," Vex said, the energy in his crystalline head pulsing with intensity. "The moon itself can be used as a weapon. Its energy grid can be recalibrated to emit a pulse that will disable their ships." "But that would drain the moon's core," Lyra protested. "It would kill you, Vex." The crystalline being made a sound like chimes in a breeze. "I have existed for millennia, child. Perhaps it is time for new things to take my place." He turned to Archer. "You will need to channel the energy through yourself to target it properly. Your hybrid nature makes you uniquely capable, but the process will be traumatic." Another explosion, closer now, shook the ground beneath them. "Do it," Archer said without hesitation. "Tell me what to do." Vex led them deeper into the cave, to a chamber where crystal columns rose from floor to ceiling, humming with energy. In the center was a depression filled with swirling liquid energy, the same opalescent substance that flowed in Lyra's veins. "The heart of this moon," Vex explained. "A reservoir of pure life force." He gestured for Archer to approach. "Immerse yourself. Open your mind to the energy flow. Direct it not with thought, but with intent." Archer looked at Lyra, who nodded encouragement, though fear was evident in her eyes. He stepped into the pool, the liquid energy instantly soaking through his clothes, his skin, into his very cells. The sensation was overwhelming, like being filled with lightning, like every atom in his body was singing in perfect harmony. He could feel the entire moon, every crystal, every molecule. And beyond it he sensed the approaching purifiers, their ships cutting through space toward them. Following Vex's guidance, Archer didn't think about what he wanted to do. He simply felt it, desired it, became it. Energy surged through him, using his body as a conduit, focusing through the silver mark on his palm that pulsed like a second heart. Outside, the sky ignited with white fire as a wave of pure energy erupted from the moon's surface. Archer saw through the eyes of the energy itself as it engulfed the purifier ships, shorting out their systems, freezing their weapons, sending them spiraling out of control. In the chamber, Archer's body began to glow from within, his skin becoming translucent as the energy threatened to tear him apart. He heard Lyra calling his name, felt her hands pulling him from the pool, but it was like listening through water, feeling through smoke. Then darkness. When Archer opened his eyes, he was lying on the floor of the shuttle, Lyra's face hovering above him, her expression tight with worry. "Welcome back," she said, relief evident in her voice. "For a while, I thought I'd lost you." Archer sat up slowly, expecting pain, but finding none. Instead, he felt complete. The hunger that had been gnawing at him since his transformation began had quieted to a manageable awareness. "Vex?" he asked. Lyra shook her head. "Gone." The energy pulse drained the moon's core just as he predicted. But the Purifier's ships were disabled. "We have time now." Archer looked down at his hands. They appeared normal at first glance, but when he concentrated, he could make energy ripple just beneath the skin, a subtle luminescence that came and went with his breath. "What am I now?" he asked quietly. "Something new," Lyra said, taking his hand in hers. The touch sent a pleasant resonance through both of them, their energies harmonizing. "Vex called you a synthesis, the joining of human adaptability with NRI power. You channel energy in ways neither of our kinds can. And the Purifiers will keep coming," Archer said. It wasn't a question. Yes. What you represent, what we represent together, threatens everything they believe. They won't stop. Archer stood, moving to the viewport. The obsidian nebula still swirled outside, but now he could see patterns in it, currents of energy he'd been blind to before. "Then we don't stop either," he said with newfound resolve. "Vex showed me things, memories, histories. There are others like you, Lyra, NRI, who believe in connection rather than isolation. We find them. We build something new." Lyra joined him at the viewport, her reflection overlapping with his in the glass. "It won't be easy. The Purifiers are ancient, powerful, with resources throughout the galaxy. So we start small," Archer replied. "One step at a time." He turned to her, taking both her hands in his. "You saved me by turning me into this. Now we save others, both our kinds." Energy sparked between their joined hands, silver and violet intertwining. "Where do we go first?" Lyra asked, a smile playing at the corners of her mouth. Archer closed, his eyes extending his new senses outward. Somewhere distant but distinct, he felt a resonance, like calling to like. "There," he said, opening his eyes. "I can feel them. Others who don't fit the mold. Others who need a different path." As the shuttle's engines hummed to life, Archer felt a strange peace settling over him. 3 days ago, he'd been a simple mechanic leading a simple life. Now he was something beyond human, bonded to an alien, hunted by zealots, with an impossible mission ahead. And somehow, it felt exactly right. "You know," he said as they set course away from the nebula, "when I was fixing things on the station, I always wondered if there was something more out there for me, some greater purpose." Lyra's violet eyes met his, glowing with shared understanding. "And now?" Archer smiled, feeling the energy pulse through his veins, through the bond they shared. "Now I know there is." The shuttle accelerated into the darkness between stars, carrying with it the seed of something new in the galaxy. A bridge between worlds, a challenge to ancient dogmas and the beginning of a destiny neither of them could have imagined alone.